Good morning. My name is Dana Hansen. I'm the president of End Zone Sports, and I am joined today by Shane Larkin. Good morning, Shane. How are you, man?
Doing good, Dana. Doing good. Excited to be here.
Hey, so great to see you. Luckily, you don't have a camera that makes you look like you have a spray tan on, but I
Yeah,
lucky me.
we'll
Um,
we'll we'll get you checked out there in no time.
Something's wrong with me. I have jaundice. I don't know what what the deal is. Hey, so I wanted to give folks a chance to get to know you a little bit because you're obviously such a central part of End Zone Sports, and I was hoping that you could maybe tell us a little bit about yourself. Just kind of start by, where did you grow up? Did you play sports? Are you married? Do you have kids? Tell us a little bit
Yeah,
about your yourself there.
yeah. So, kind of all blends together. When I first was interviewed for End Zone, I was interviewed to be, an End Zone junior coach. I was a high school football coach at the time in college, and so I got an opportunity to come on with End Zone. That was 2013, so 11 years ago now, and since then, I went from being a college kid looking for a job to being able to make End Zone kind of part of our family and our goal and our quest. And my wife has now been involved in the brand. My lovely wife Kathleen. We have two boys now. Just had a new baby in February, so just recently, and we've kind of, we've jumped around quite a bit. Obviously, we were out of the Tampa Bay area where our national headquarters is based out of, but now we're up in the Pittsburgh region. So that's why we don't see each other too often in the office. But yeah, we're up here. We're all about End Zone up here too. So we've got a lot of cool stuff going on. When it comes to the sports side, I played sports growing up, but I was never really great at them. I was much better at watching them and analyzing them. So kind of always knew I wanted to be a coach.
Hmm.
I just saw it more on like the football coaching side and actually coaching athletes. And now I've had the opportunity of mixing that with, positively influencing and coaching business owners who get to have an impact on kids who are actually out there coaching kids, which is just it's kind of the coolest mix of both worlds of being a business professional, but also still getting to impact youth sports. So it's really been a special experience helping grow this brand.
No doubt. It's actually fun for me to see how much you've grown in the time that I've known you,
Yeah.
these many years. And it's yeah, you were very young, and now married with kids. Look at you, man, just
Yep.
like loving life. I appreciate your journey. So, favorite sports team of all time, favorite player of all time.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm actually all over the place on that front. Not like a bandwagon all over the place type of fan where they just go with like the teams that have won the most championships recently. But I grew up in the Tampa Bay area, and I got to attend the opening day uh, baseball game for the Tampa Bay Rays in 1998. I was just a kid, and so I got to attend opening day and got like the inaugural game pin. And so I've just always been a Rays fan. Love watching the Tampa Bay Rays. Favorite player of that organization, Evan Longoria. Been a fan of his for a long time. But so baseball, it's the Tampa Bay Rays. Basketball, huge Miami Heat fan. Dwayne Wade coming out of Marquette after his run that he had in Marquette, and he actually him being drafted by the Heat got me really into the NBA, and so I started watching that team. And then, of course, the Pittsburgh Steelers. My family, that was the one team I was raised on. Sometimes you become a fan of teams yourself, like those other two teams. Like I kind of became a fan. My household was a Steelers household. There were Steelers pictures on the wall because, I mean, of course, why not? So, because my parents both grew up here in the Pittsburgh region, that's always been my team. So that's probably my number one sports team, the one I obsess with the most. Formerly ran a sports podcast called the Deadlock Sports Talk a couple years ago. Don't really have time to keep it up anymore, but man, probably way more Miami Heat and Pittsburgh Steelers conversations than there should have been on one single podcast.
That's pretty cool. No, I love that. Obviously, sports is the one thing that I think people feel, a lot of people, not everyone, but most people feel, a passion about, and
Yeah,
it's just so much fun. And I think it can be a great, some people might see it as a distraction from reality or a break from reality, but I think others
yeah,
like just are amazed at like just the experience and some of the incredible things that you see. Competition brings out like the best in all of us, I think. So yeah,
yeah.
totally get it. Now you mentioned that you've been
It's
with
awesome.
End Zone Sports for many years. What makes you so loyal?
Um, Honestly, it's always been interesting because I have a father who worked in a trade industry, as an electrician and worked all these different jobs and worked his way up the ladder. Um, just an example. He been with his most recent company for 14 years, and then they just decided, as he's encroaching on retirement, they just decided to kick up some dust and cause a problem, and ended up letting him go. And now he's starting over at a new company. It's like, when you find somebody who's loyal to you and treats you with an insane amount of respect that sometimes you don't even feel like you maybe earned, it doesn't matter what the other details are. You need to try and find a way to make it work, right? So I think that was the biggest thing when, I've worked a ton of jobs, been working practically full-time hours since I was 15, just because of, our family situation growing up and whatnot. So it was always work, 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 work. When I met Tony and the End Zone team out at South Shore, it just felt like, a family, and like they were gonna automatically have your back. And so when I had the opportunity to increase my role here, come back and do this full time, which was right around like post COVID when I switched to full time and the director of franchise development. When that opportunity came about, it felt like, hey, drop everything else you're doing and put everything you can into this. And so, I've been with the company for 11 years, but only full time here for about 3 years. And man, it's been an incredible journey.
No doubt about it. Yeah, it's really fun to see. I think you're perfect for your role. Would you mind just kind of sharing,
Yeah.
your role and your responsibilities with End Zone now?
Yeah, I think director of franchise development is the tag. I think what I've learned from Tony in this role is that we want these franchise owners and these business partners that come on board with us to understand that they are just that we are partners in this, and that we are incentivized to see them succeed, not just come on board, and so I think that's the biggest thing, is like we have to truly understand that our role is to support them and help them. And that's why I've always like seen myself as a coach. And that's how I coached kids when I was coaching sports. Was I wanted to be a mentor to them, not just teach them the X's and O's of the sport and make sure that they perform well on the fields. Like, hey, I've got your back. So it's a combination of a couple of those things. But with my role of training new partners that come on board, and then really kind of holding their hand and embracing the process with them as they're in that first 6 to 12 months, that's really the critical time. And that's where I really get to lean in the most with the new owners. And it's great. It's really fulfilling because they kind of look to me and our team as like, hey, I really, really need you. Like, let's make sure that we're engaging. And when we get that back out of them, and then we, give them that time, they run with it. And it's a good feeling. When people truly lean into the process and follow your instruction, and you're able to coach them and you're able to see their growth. It's like there's nothing else. There's nothing else that feels like that business.
100%. No, I think you're exactly right. And I think it's really, such a huge, it just, I don't know that we can overstate the importance of getting our new owners off to the best possible start, and the
Yeah.
feedback that we get from our owners after training. You're just doing an amazing job with them. Can you talk a little bit about like when, like why do you feel like you are an effective trainer? Why are you so good in support? What are kind of the skill sets, or what insight do you have that maybe like are this kind of unique to really help them get off to the best possible start?
Yeah, um I think the biggest thing is it's interesting because what's really really important is structure and process and guidance. So I get on that side, but then there's also an understanding, and it's kind of this complicated conversation in business of understanding the gray areas, right? Of hey, I've got to have a process, but if I'm so rigid to that process that somebody has a different situation, they're coming on board, they still have a full-time job versus somebody who's coming on board and leaves everything else they're doing to just do this. Well, I've got to adapt that process for those different individuals according to what they need. And I think so as far as my coaching goes, I have to be willing to adapt and be versatile with my process and how I support them. And so I think one of the biggest things is understanding the process through and through. Having been there when End Zone Junior was created and see how it's evolved and adapted over 8 years, having been in every situation that you can think of out at one of the leagues, whether it's a parent situation, player situation, all of the different game situations. I've seen everything from that perspective. But then when it comes to actually coaching business owners, it's understanding that we've got a very diverse group of people who have some really good business experience. Some people are totally green. Some people who are, have lots of knowledge and how to handle and have conversations with people. And some people who are just like, it's all Greek to me. And so having been in both of those positions, having been totally green to all of it, having to lean on Tony, I understood how important that was when I was new to all of this. And now having every conversation that you can think of myself, now I understand the other perspective. And just going through that journey and being in this plan myself for over a decade, it allows me to coach people who are all at those different levels. And it's really cool.
Yeah, no, I love that. I also love the fact that you operate your own league, so you know firsthand what that experience is like, and like I don't know that there's any substitute for that because you can write things in
Yeah.
a playbook, and you're like, this is the way it should work. But I think when life is happening, there's things that you don't anticipate. So I there's
Yeah.
probably nothing that's going to come up that you haven't seen or heard. So I think
Yeah.
that's really extremely valuable too, especially on the league side.
Yeah, and I can give, a direct connection to it. So like when somebody reaches out to us and says, "Hey, I've got this going on, this happened," like, you know, those variables that come up and I'm able to coach people on that. Those variables that come up, it's like, "Hey, I understand what you're going through. I've been there. I get like being a business owner, it's not a full-time job. It's so much more than that. Like you're not going to sit down and equate that like you work this exact amount of hours every week. It's like, no, don't even worry about logging hours because you're just going to drive yourself insane, right? Because you're a small business owner. You have to do more than that. And it doesn't have to be in set window of hours. It's like multitasking on steroids, right? And so, yeah, it's really important that the members of our sport team, where we're at right now, we're out there and we're doing it ourselves so that we can give real time support and understanding from these different things that people are going through. And I mean that's invaluable for them to know, hey, this is somebody who's doing it as well, and they know where I'm coming from and what I'm dealing with. And I think one of the coolest things about where we're at as a brand right now is that Tony will admit this too, is we've learned so much from our different franchise partners. I mean, just giving their insight, being involved on Tuesday calls, and on the franchise owner forum, and at our national convention we just had this last summer. We've learned so much from them that's allowed us to get better. And I think that's one of the coolest things of our entire experience so far is that we've taught people all this stuff that we know and shared with them our plan and our knowledge. And then they've come back and said, hey, I learned this. Hey, I learned that. Or here's a trick that I decided to do. And now we're just like, wow, this thing is evolving and growing. It's like going from having a toddler to a young child where you have to watch every step and guide every move. And then they become a teenager and now they're starting to like make some of their own decisions and discover stuff that you didn't even know. And you're just like, oh goodness, that's such an interesting evolution of all this. So
That's a really good point. To the parent analogy and what you were talking about just a moment ago, I think there's I think even the owners that do this on a part-time, somewhat limited basis in the beginning, I think it's a lot like having kids where even if you're not necessarily doing something where you're focused on the business right now, it's probably
yeah,
something in your mind. It's always there. And the
yeah,
funny thing is, as a parent myself, like you may go, you might get a babysitter and go out to eat. The funny thing is you end up talking about your kids and what's going
the whole
on.
time.
It's
Yeah,
like you just can't get away from it. And I think when it's a fun business, it's something that you want to be thinking about, and you want to,
yeah,
and you want to get better, and you want to grow, you want to scale, and like what's the next thing for me? And so I think there's a big
yeah,
part of that where it's always on your mind. So I think
yeah.
that's a really good analogy. Yeah, appreciate that. So I think you may have touched on it a little bit, but what brings you the most joy in your role? Like, with what you're doing, is it seeing owners grow? Is it, like what does that look like?
Yeah, I think it used to be more based on when we were first kind of building it, used to be based more on like going on social media and seeing the kids at the different locations. And now I think that we're growing so much. I know the kids are having that positive experience. Now I think it's seeing the success and the joy in the revenue built on the business owner side. So it's evolved actually. Like it really used to be where it was just all about my journey, my goal for the kids, and now being an adult with adult responsibilities and understanding how difficult it is in this world of society to build something for yourself, um, having the opportunity to help people accomplish that, that's really the coolest thing for me. So when I see somebody who I helped put through training and who's following the plan, you got an opportunity to interview Justin Went out in Bend, and talk with him, and so just that's one of the fresh ones on my mind. Just trained him less than a year ago, and then he follows the process so true, and now we have our weekly calls, and it's like, yeah, I'm good. I understand the process. I'm running with it, and he's building this. It's such a great feeling to be able to see that,
Yeah.
and embrace it, and really share that with other people, and help people who are like, yeah, I'm tired of working for somebody else, building somebody else's dream, and working this 9 to 5 only to get the boot later. I want to build something for myself, and being able to help people do that, that is like truly a feeling like nothing else.
Love that. No, that makes a lot of sense. Just curious, what do you feel are like the biggest keys to being successful, in this business? And it's probably the same for most businesses, but specifically, like what are the things that like that you'd like to see from the new owners? Maybe it's mindset, maybe it's, execution, but what are the keys to being successful for you?
Um, yeah, so there's a couple of things. When on the business side, you have to not be able to like be afraid to spend on marketing, right? So you talk about some of those business things and coaching. Okay, you got to be organized, you got to be structured, you got to make sure you spend on marketing. I think more from like the bird's eye view, the 1,000 foot view. When I look at it, it's like I need people to understand that there's process, right? And it takes time to build something. So quality over quantity and having patience and trust in the plan to me is like really the most important thing. It's not about how fast you get to finish line. It's about how you get there, right? So I'll have, for example, somebody was to train last week and they're like, oh, I want to start a summer program. Well, summer's a month and a half away. So it's not about starting a summer program. It's about starting a good program. And so if that means starting it in fall and taking the entire rest of spring and all of summer to make sure that we market, we connect with our community, we're out engaging the Chamber of Commerce, all those different things, that's really something that people have. And same thing in the End Zone Junior program. It's like patience, do it the right way, do it at a couple of schools. once you wrap your head around the plan and you understand it and you know you can execute it without us having to hold your hand or be over your shoulder so closely, then you can really run with it. You can add your own flavor to it. And so I think patience and understanding the process thoroughly before you walk before you run type of thing. I think that's really the most important part of this.
That's a really good point. I talk to people all the time that, they're like, how quickly can I make, X amount of money or, whatever. And I think what you have to realize, it kind of goes to what you said. This is not a sprint. Business ownership is not a sprint. It's a
Nope.
marathon. We want our owners to look back 5 years from now and say, man, End Zone Sports, that was one of the best decisions that I ever made was
Yeah.
joining End Zone and running End Zone. I think that's a really good point. I think your other point, trust the process. That is,
Yeah.
like that is something that is, huge. Obviously, we've done this for a long time, and we
Yeah.
take the guesswork out of it. And then I think the other thing that you said that's important is that marketing piece. Obviously, not being afraid to spend money on marketing. I came from a brand where new owners were required to spend $10,000 a month on marketing.
Yeah.
That's very different than End Zone Sports. Obviously,
Very aggressive.
so
Yeah.
it's a different perspective, but you still have to, that's why you want to have that working capital to be able to,
Absolutely.
announce who we are and what we do and get people signed up in the leagues or with the junior program. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think those are really, really good points.
Can't tiptoe. You can't
Yeah.
tiptoe into marketing for a new business. My mom just started her own boutique and she was like, yeah, I'm just adding a little bit into the account here at a time so that I can pay for this. I'm like, Mom, fund that account and go out and market yourself. And I mean, she's 2 months into from opening this thing, and she's like, that was the best advice you could give me. And so I tell people that all the time, like, hey,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to spend on that marketing and engagement, build connections, go to those extra events, and build yourself as a brand. End Zone's a great brand. It's a great logo. I mean, we've got a lot of good things, but you're the brand. You have to go and engage with people and give yourself an opportunity to be seen.
Well, that's a really good point. And I think also sometimes people look at business ownership and they're like, "Oh, I want to just like dip my toe in the water." And if you've ever been like, out to Colorado where, you have these really cold rivers and whatever, if you
Oh yeah.
just like dip your toe in, you're like, "Oh, I don't know that I want to go in." And then you
Yeah.
ease in and you're like, "Oh man, it's so cold." You just need to just dive in and just embrace it and
Oh yeah.
let's go. Like that needs to be the mindset for business ownership. So I think that's
That's
a
good.
really good point. As far as so getting to know Shane Larkin on a personal level, apples or oranges, which do you prefer?
Oh man, I grew up all apples all the time, and now I'm an oranges person. I don't get it.
Okay.
Like I'm all about the citrus, but I did marry a Cuban Peruvian woman who uses like so much citrus in her cooking that I think she swayed me on that. Yeah,
Hey,
I'm
that's
an oranges guy now. I do those little like tangelos that you peel and you just sit there and eat them like candies all day.
those are good. Yeah,
Oh
man,
yeah,
I love that. Favorite food?
pizza. I mean, just so many variations. It's got everything you need in it. I'm an unoriginal bastard in that. Pizza all the way.
So, cats or dogs?
Dogs. I've got two lovely dogs that bother me all the time. Every time I get on video call, that is their signal to start wrestling below my feet.
If you could be any animal, what would it be?
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna kind of go typical route there. A lion.
Okay.
That's kind of like in honor of my grandmother. She was like this amazing matriarch in our family. And she was just kind of always took charge, and it was her crew. And she was a single mother that raised all like 9 kids. My mom has 8 siblings, and after she passed away, I got a tattoo of a lion here with a scripture that she liked. So
Oh, cool.
that's kind of always an homage to her.
That's awesome, man. Love that. Um, Favorite action hero?
Ooh, um, that's a tougher one. I wasn't prepared for that one. You know who I really like, who's not really looked at as like a great actor sometimes, but
Hmm.
I think he's made a lot of really cool movies, is Sylvester Stallone. I mean, just Sly's kind of a really tough dude. He's
Yeah,
made
yeah.
some really good movies, and me and my wife always like going through and watching the Rocky movies, which I know those are fighting movies, not exactly action, but he's made plenty of action movies. So
Hey, yeah, you're right. I just watched one of the Expendables the other day, and I'm like,
those
you
are
know what?
fun.
Those are fun. You know, you don't have to think too much about the plot. Just enjoy the carnage. Yeah.
Yeah, you got the Denzels of the world that are like a little bit deeper actor kind of stuff. But I like me some slime.
All right. And then last question, what's the one thing that people don't know about you that they should know?
Ooh. Um, I don't know if they don't know this about me, but I want to make sure everybody knows it. I dream big. I've got really really big goals and dreams, and so I hope that I think one of the things that people will learn about me is I'm not too big on wasting people's time. So if they want somebody around them that's going to be as effective as possible and is going to it's one of those things like your parents kind of tell you, but you learn it more from experience in the world of who you put around you kind of you end up reflecting that. And so you got to make sure you put good people around you. Well, I try to be one of those good people for a lot of people, um, kind of like protect and take care of everybody else type of thing. And so um, I've got big dreams. And so I'm putting good people around me and I'm trying to be a good person that other people put around them in order to accomplish their goals and dreams. So yeah, I've got big big belief and goals for our team here at Endzone. For sure, that's going to be something that I hopefully I look back on in 20 years and I can hang my hat on. Hey, I helped build something really really special over there.
Hey, that's amazing, man. I think you just knocked it out of the park. I appreciate the time, Shane. Great job, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you. I'm so excited about these interviews that you're doing. It really just allows people some insight into what we're doing here and how special this brand is, how special the people are. So really excited about it, man. Thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you, Shane. Appreciate your time, man.